was an artist. I was not yet 30. I lived alone most of the time, in a messy room. My films did not do well. I wrote screenplays for films I produced with nothing. I met Jean, a movie actress who was no longer making films. She chose to kill herself. A woman with Jean's face appeared to me in a dream. The room was empty. The door was open. Through the door frame, one could see the wall of a church. The ghost's face was pallid. The ghost said, "I have to leave now. I'm going over there behind this church. You will always be able to find me there." Like in Théophile Gautier's Spirit, in which the woman who committed suicide appears in the mirror and leads the young man to death. Jean was calling me into the next world. But this is how the story took place in real life. I was in my room that day, smoking hash with the precision brought by habit. The winter sun was setting behind the curtains. I fell asleep wearing all my clothes. I woke up and cried into my pillow in the middle of the night. At noon I went down into the street. I ran into Elizabeth, a friend, who dragged me to the home of a couple she was supposed to have lunch with. I bought a lily along the way to give to the woman I did not know, and to whose home I was being brought unannounced. She was the actress Jean Seberg. I was to see her again. I would meet her in my room, at her place, and in a cafe. Through the window I watched the snow fall over the courtyard. I made a film with Jean. I filmed her face. Sometimes Jean cried. I stood behind the camera. Jean was an actor's studio actress, and she improvised psychodramas. I only filmed her face, keeping secret the conditions of the shoot. Once I finished this portrait, I submitted a first cut of her film to Jean, who thought the film was very good. Jean had been in many films, but she took pleasure in a film entirely devoted to her. Also in this film, you could see her soul, which was very beautiful. Jean wrote a screenplay, and now I want to talk about Aurelia. She also wrote poems which are published. She alternated between identifying with Nerval's Aurelia, whom she wanted to play in a modern style, and Joan of Arc, because she'd played in the Americans' version of Joan of Arc. Jean had a nervous breakdown. She was hospitalized. The electroshocks Jean was subjected to led to a tragic development. I was walking home from the cinema labs in the suburbs. I was walking along the river. It was the end of summer. Fishermen stood out against the setting sun. I was crossing the flea market by the Porte de Clignancourt. A new film was finished, and I exuded the happiness of being relieved of it, when suddenly on a random sidewalk I came upon Jean's photo on the front page of an evening paper. Jean Seberg has committed suicide.